Hi, I'm Nadine and I'm founder of Hopster, which is a confidence building business. I'm originally German, but I've been an expat for close to 16 years now. I'm currently based in the UK in London. And today I'm fortunate to be speaking to Marketa to talk all things entrepreneurship and exchanging some of our war stories.
So why are we here? To get to know each other better. I'm here with Nadine, which is super exciting, an entrepreneur I met about a year ago at one event in London. And I was really amazed with her because she's a solo entrepreneur and she runs a pretty amazing and inspiring app. So I really want to learn more about her journey and about what she does. And what I do, me and my colleagues, we run e1133, a company that is trying to, let's say, build the world's friendliest college. I want you to understand basically what was your journey to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, first of all, it's my pleasure to be here and thank you for inviting me. Where do I start? So my entrepreneurship journey is about 3 years old or so at this point. When I started, it was literally, the way I would describe it is I was in front of a closed door which held a world behind it that I didn't know. At that point, I knew exactly one startup founder. So literally, and I don't have that in my family. So for me, it's not something that I've grown up with. I always had sort of that faint ambition, oh yeah, it would be really nice to have my own business one day, but I didn't know how to go about it. In Germany, actually, where I'm from, it's very complicated. Here in the UK is a lot easier, at least the setup, the initial administration. But then, like I say, I didn't have a network. Where do we start? So it's been really 3 years. You know, there's the 10,000 hour rule, and just for fun, I've been kind of keeping track. So I'm a bit at the halfway mark now after 3 years, and I can see that if I restarted from scratch my journey now, it would be so accelerated. But I had to learn the many lessons that I have learned over the last 3 years to be where I am now. But yeah, so effectively, like I say, 3 years ago, I started initially on this for 6 months in a different startup. So I joined very different field, a crypto startup, because a friend of a friend was founding one or started out. So helped that for a while, left that, and then effectively quite quickly decided what I wanted to do.
So Nadine, another question I had when I realized that you run your own business was, how is it to basically kind of be alone? Like, do you have any support system?
It's a really good question, and I'd say it was one of those things that when I started out, a lot of people will come to you, especially investors, which is weird, but you're often approached as like, who's your co-founder, or you should get a co-founder. And actually I started out because there was quite predominant advice when I started, and so my first quest was, okay, I'm alone, I want to do this, I need co-founders. That was so ingrained in my brain. So I started, and I tried a couple of times and I failed because it was just not the right set of people. And it is literally, like they say, it's kind of like a marriage, and you don't want to be in a relationship that is just gonna, you know, arguments and all sorts of stuff. You get legal threats, all sorts of things. So for me, it was really counterproductive for what I wanted to achieve. It was very distracting, and so I was like, you know what, there's probably other ways to do it. So long story short, I've especially over some people are longer with me now than that, but I would say at the core of the last year or so, I really built what is currently my team, and we're about 10 people, and everyone has like their substantive roles still. So you know, it's still something that people do on the side, and we work as a collective. So what you see about what we do is basically our sweat and tears and our skills brought under one roof. So
at e1133, we have adopted a sentence that we got from former colleague from a previous company that used to say, we do what we teach what we do. And I think now it's after you spoke about your journey, after you spoke about how you're doing it now with your colleagues, alone, with some advice from friends. Now I would really want to go into the core of what you actually do.
So my job, and really the job I've carved out for Hopster, really is kind of twofold. One is to really educate and raise awareness of how vast confidence really is and how pervasive it is and the effects that it has, and that it's way more than just imposter syndrome, stage fright, and whatnot. But the second aspect is, of course, to help people build confidence, and that's easier said than done, because ultimately confidence building is behavior change. Confidence building is not something, even people who swear by things like therapy, they might still dread going to a therapy session, even though they know the value, they've gained a lot from it, and they are actually, it's a routine for them, they love it, but still it's not, it's not like watching a Netflix movie. You're not just going, sitting down on a sofa with popcorn and indulging passively in whatever. You're still having to work on yourself. So if people really, what's the most important part is not actually necessarily the confidence building, although we do that, but it's also to help excite people and to see them, to envisage themselves being that confident and secure self that is able to validate from within and sort of can shed off all those really unhelpful behaviors that will be detrimental to them and others. So, in a nutshell,
it would be really nice if you could share with our students some confidence tips, and also maybe, Lisha, I'm super curious, like how does your app actually really achieve it, like where that value is.
Yeah, definitely. I'll keep it short, but just sort of as a start of a 10, one thing to bear in mind is confidence is really closely related to self-awareness. So try to use every single day you have to try and discover more parts of yourself. There can be oftentimes, which is funny to me, a bit of shame around, oh no, I didn't know that about myself. Had I known that, I would have done things differently. This is a beautiful moment. Cherish it. You've just learned something new about yourself. This is great. You're going to use that productively going forward, but aim to create those situations. How can you do that? We speak a lot about comfort zone. The reason that is important is you put effectively yourself in a situation you have not seen yourself in. That means you can observe yourself of how you react. You might notice that you don't like something, you're afraid of it, you are whatever. So do those things to learn a new aspect of yourself. Another thing I tend to say is feedback. We tend to get really afraid if, especially if it's sort of at the beginning of our confidence building journey. Get feedback and try it out with people you feel very safe with, and two simple questions: what do you love about me, and what do you think I could improve? I think the other thing that I used to struggle with a lot, that was my biggest aspect, was boundaries and saying no. But value yourself first of all. Like, you have limited batteries, you have limited things to give. You are still a person, and you deserve what you give back. And some people, just sadly, that's one of the sad lessons of adulthood, is some people just aren't there to give as much as you give, and so you really need to learn how to set those boundaries. Say no. It can be lonely at first to set those boundaries, but I think those would be sort of some of my 3 top tips. In terms of the app itself, think of it as a life coach in your pocket type concept. So it's literally your little coach. So to give you little bits of self-awareness, prompts, reflection points. So for you to really understand yourself a little better, give you some of the science about confidence, which in itself is quite confidence building. The more you learn about something like that.
Why they should become entrepreneurs, or at least if they're thinking about it, why they should not hesitate, because obviously it's not always easy, but you're doing it, so why do you think they should do that?
And I particularly like the second part of your question in terms of why should they not hesitate, because I think you don't have to be an entrepreneur. Like, the question, should I be an entrepreneur, depends. Like, there's no right or wrong as to how you should live your life, whether you should be an entrepreneur or not. But if you have your heart and mind set on it, you have an idea, definitely there's no reason for you to hesitate. I think what's really important, my big tip, first of all, very important, there's not one way to entrepreneur. There's oftentimes this extroverted, in your face, salesy, on the one hand, or maybe this very geeky, techie kind of persona. That's usually what we attribute with entrepreneurship. But there's 1,000,001 other shades of entrepreneurship, and you need to really stay true to yourself, because that's where you are your strongest, whether in your personal life or as an entrepreneur. So don't be too blinded by all the left and right and advice as, no, you should be like this and you should be like this. Bullshit. excuse my French, but like you need to enjoy the journey. The process is the most critical one. If you hate that, you'll never reach the result. That's number one. I think purpose, for me personally, some might disagree, some might value money over anything, but for me, I think what provides you with the longevity and perseverance required for entrepreneurship, because it is a marathon, is purpose. So you'll have a lot of dark days, a lot of weeks when nothing happens, nothing seems to fall in place, nothing seems to work. You need to persevere through those weeks, and there'll be lots of those. And so unless you need to have strong purpose, so that you get up in the morning and you remind yourself. I can remind myself that, look, I have people left and right always telling me confidence so big, blah blah blah, like I hear it, I see the consequences of people not having confidence, how much they suffer. So that's something that gets me up every single day and keeps me going, keeps me innovative, on my toes, to think, okay, what else can I try? And the third aspect is plan and set your startup up as if you never get funding. The reality is you're most likely not going to raise money for your startup, and that's and you might be an exception. And so definitely, first of all, get that out of your head, that raising money is better than not raising money. You can make a much better business not raising money than because with raising funds, there's a lot of responsibility, investors, all that sorts of things that come with it. That's fine. And so you need to find your way to entrepreneur again, but it's also just the stats. As a woman, as a diverse founder, you'll get less than 1% of the overall funding pie.
Okay, thank you. So we have one more great question from Gunjan about whether there are any advantages or disadvantages by being a female entrepreneur.
It's a beautiful question. I came across a post a few years ago, and it was like something like women tend to get the lower paying jobs, instead of males will have doctor, lawyer, and women will be female lawyer, female doctor, because we know of the pay gap. But it's a bit similar in entrepreneurship, in the sense that, I mean, it's kind of two sides of the same coin. So on the one hand, yes, statistically speaking, less funding goes to women. There is still a white male predominant culture in startup land. Personally, and that's my personal approach, I don't want to quote unquote play the gender card, because it's one of those things that is outside of my control. It is the situation we're in. I do what I can by being a female entrepreneur and carving out my path, and hopefully being a role model, hopefully making it to the point where, and so on and so forth, employing females, all those sorts of things. But I can't change the current situation. I can't just be like, oh no, I'm not taken seriously because I'm a woman. That should not be something that stops you. So I've definitely seen my fair share of not being taken seriously, mansplaining. People don't think I can deal with a spreadsheet, like basic things like this, where I'm like, you just kind of nod and never talk to that person again, because they're unteachable. And is there like a kind of a pretty, some women may be using their attributes for an advantage, maybe. That's probably true for the world in general. I don't do that. I don't like, being that way. So when we speak about advantages, is that an advantage? I don't know. Some people might play that card.
Okay, Nadine, if you can then please, as part of closing statements, send some message to our audience. That would be nice. Thank you.
100%. So I would say that one of the key drivers for the work that I do is I want to see a world that is diverse, that's colorful, and that really gives an equitable voice to the variety of shapes and sizes and voices and opinions and everything that we have. That's not currently the case, and I hope that a world where people are increasingly confident and own who they are confident in owning who they are, and have taken the time to discover who they really are, that colorfulness will increase, and that will make our world better. And I know that sounds very lofty and corny, but that's the fact. So please don't, my appeal to you is, don't dim your light, don't dim your voice. You may not feel that you have something to offer or to say. I've certainly felt that way before, but trust me, you do. Trust me, we need your voice, we need your face, your everything, whatever your gifts and things you have uniquely to give to the world. Please let them shine.